My name's Chris Lesso. This is your best self through drumming, and this is LTR drumming, life through rhythm, where we get to do this, we get to improve a little bit every day and have fun as we face the challenges of drumming and life. So let's do this, your best self through drumming. Now today, this is something that I'm gonna share with you through the LTR live cast, where we brought in the amazing Chris Coleman. Now, because I play sonar drums, Chris actually plays sonar drums as well. And I got to meet him a few years ago at a drum event he did. He played bass guitar in the event as well as drums, and he had like volunteers from the audience come up, and his energy and originality and the fun he has is incredible. So you're gonna see this live today. So I met him a few years ago. He's inspired me. I've learned so much from him. I had to have him on this live cast and share him with my community of drummers around the world. And what you'll see happening is something called LTR CONNECT, where my students, we come together online and we just become better together. That's what this is. It's a tribe. If you're trying to do this alone and you're just by yourself and you're trying to find your way on YouTube or different mediums, that is not the way forward. That's gonna block you from becoming all that you can be on the drums and in life. So you wanna tap into the mastermind and the tribe that feels right for you and that brings the best out of you. You'll notice it in how you feel. And after this live cast, you're gonna notice it. Everybody was elevated, energized, and couldn't wait to pick up their sticks and get to the drums and just kick it. And that's what the feeling is. So we have special guests like Chris Coleman on regularly, but we also come together, sometimes in large groups, sometimes small groups. You always get feedback from me, and you always learn something challenging and fun. No matter what level you're at, what age you're at, it's fantastic. So you're gonna see it live right now. This is the LTR livecast with the amazing Chris Coleman, where we all became better and we all got inspired. So have fun becoming your best self through drumming and be inspired by the amazing Chris Coleman.
Be very careful, please hear me when I say this. We'll never ever have it mastered, ED, okay? It'll always be ING. I forever want to be mastering. I forever want to be a student to the game, right?
Love that, I love that.
And if I'm always mastering time and all music comes from time, then the more I master of it, the more control I have, which translates into freedom, right? The more control of time I have between the limbs and my processor and all of these things, the more I'll have freedom to express the way I need to express. Now, the fun part comes is when I have to learn what I call a color or a flavor. Do you understand? It's like, now it's easier. You know, if I did my practice with Rosetta Stone of Korean for 90 days before I get to Korea, I'm going to be much more successful than if I show up and just go, kamsamnida, to everything everybody says. You see what I'm saying? So yeah. I had to switch my thinking to, if I don't have anything specific to work on, whether it's a session, a gig, or learning an artist's music or songs or a project or anything, I can always practice mastering time.
What's some ways you stay the eternal student, Chris?
I allow life to help me. I allow life to basically keep me in reality. You know, I am blessed, man. I've traveled, I've flown probably 1.6. I got to go to 2 more airlines to get the actual mileage, but I've probably flown like 1.6 to 1.7 million miles for work, you know, in my career. So yeah, I travel a lot for work. And what happens is, it's just an automatic thing. It's not because I have an attitude. It's not that I don't feel like I need to practice. It's just like, I got a 13-hour flight. I land, I do a gig. We got rehearsal, sound check all day. I haven't eaten yet. I got to eat, you know, and then, you know, 100 people want to take pictures, and I'm gonna do it. So that's 2 hours right there. You see what I'm saying? Like, and then at the end of the day, everybody wants to have a drum hang, so I don't get to bed till 3. Guess what? Now I got to get up at 4 o'clock for a lobby call to fly back home. So it's like that happens all the time. I can't practice. That's why I can't practice. Not because I have an attitude or I think that I've arrived, you know? So reality, I'm saying that to say reality hits when I go to sit down and just play and I ain't as sharp as I know or it's like, whoa, like, okay, then let me pull out the new breed. Let me pull out the Charlie Wilcoxon. Let me 1 in a 2 in a 3 in a, you know, I let life kind of tell me, okay, you need to get your butt in that room and, you know, come back to reality.
That's awesome. I was going to ask you some fundamentals that like you mentioned new breed, and you know those ones that we had Dom on a couple of weeks ago and we did a deep dive into stick control.
Okay.
And Dom's like friends with you know, Chad Smith and Steve Gadd and all these drummers, and he's, you know, they're chatting like, hey, what are you working on? And it's like, oh, I got stick control on the coffee table and I'm kind of going through that in a fresh way. So you mentioned new breed. Are there things you're kind of going back to in terms of
all the time
fundamentals?
All the time. I have a list of books that every time I get a new student, that's the first thing I email them. These are the books you got to pick up. We're going to run through my ABC practice method. And I tell them some of this stuff may be remedial for you, for some of you. You know, you may have already been, you're like, oh, really? Like, I thought, yeah, but you didn't do it the CRC style, which is full immersion, because 9 times out of 10, okay, it happens. I don't care what culture, I don't care where I am in this world. 9 times out of 10, it's always this way. You got it, but you didn't count through it. Do you understand? And
count through it?
Most drummers don't count through their figures. They didn't practice that way. They may have got it. They may have been able to play it and execute it, but most can't count through it. And what happens is they run into walls in their career, and they're like, I don't know what to practice next. I did this, and you're just like, you know, in this limbo until you get to the next thing, you know. And it's like, why can't I do this, or why can't I do that? I'm struggling with this. It's like, we got to strengthen this processor, and that's what counting out loud does. We got to strengthen this processor to the point where you have so much freedom that nothing hangs you up ever. You know, and it is possible. It's so possible because it's all math.
Yeah, and that makes me think of what I saw you do at your awesome events, which is like the was it Sissy?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. There's awesome videos on YouTube you guys can check out. I guess
I call it the annoying lover.
Yeah. And you're not literally counting, like that's another way of doing it, I guess, having that freedom as your rock, as like you said, Rosetta Stone, like that.
Yeah.
That kind of break. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, if you think about it, counting out loud is like the glue that holds the drum together. Do you understand what I'm saying? Without this glue, good luck. Eventually something, somewhere, some kind of pressure is going to crack it, right? Counting out loud is like soldering. I don't know if everybody understands how, you know, when you solder, you know, steel or metal together, or, you know, in this aspect, I like to use this as an example. You know, you can go through your life with an ink tattoo or a real tattoo. It's up to you, you know? But you have to be careful with an ink tattoo. Why? Because your clothes could rub it off. You know, you get in the shower and it comes off. What am I saying from that? I want to own it. I don't want to lease it. You know, I want to know that I know this. I want every aspect of me to be confident so I can smile and have fun and not be thinking while I'm on stage, you know? So I think counting out loud is so important, man. It's to strengthen this, is to line all of your limbs and everything. It's like to line everything up so we flow together. That's what I get from it.
Like you said, Chris, it's like it gives you that true north solidarity so you can have the freedom. There's an outstanding drummer in Toronto, Paul DeLong, and he's one of my favorite people and an incredible drummer. And he did a run of The Lion King, which was, I think, 2.5 years.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
he did that. How much fun would that be, eh? like
Right.
drum and music.
Killing it. I
And
would
he
love to do
did,
that.
yeah, and he did 469 shows in that run. And I
Wow.
know, that's what I said too. I'm like, wow. And he said, I counted in every show because
Wow.
like I did not want to come in. I did not want my mind to wander because I'd done the show so many times. I didn't
Right.
want to come in at the wrong time or come in too early or late. So yeah, there you go. There's a drummer playing something as high level as the Lion King. It's like I counted every freaking show, which is
Yep.
right in line with what you're saying. And that gave him the freedom to play, at that high level. So that's awesome.
Kudos to him, man. Kudos
Yeah.
to him.
Can you run your ABC practicing system? Because I'm always fascinated with like practicing really, and especially during this time,
Uh-huh.
almost like all we have is practice. Like we can't, the internet has not figured out how we can jam on the internet. People,
Okay.
are not getting to play with bands, getting to play shows. Practicing really is the thing we have right now. So can you run the ABC practice system?
Yeah. What I'll do is I'll give you the details up front, and then I'll tell you a little bit of the history, how it came about. Okay. Yeah. What the ABC practice method is a template. You can run anything you need to practice through this template. This template is not only what I tell you to practice. That's not what it is. This is look at it as a planner. Look at it as like a organizer, like an iCalendar, with alerts, alarms to keep you, flowing to do what you need to do. Very simple, guys and gals. Learn, practice, play. In that order. That's the part that I realized that I was like, I lost time. I lost a lot of time when I was young because I practiced out of sequence. I was just blazing all day, but I didn't work on this. I put 15 minutes towards this and 4 hours towards that. That's imbalanced, right? It's unbalanced. We're blessed with 2 legs and 2 feet and 2 arms for a reason, that type of thing. So learn, practice, play. It happens like this in the real world every day. I could take the Prince example, right? I sent him how the whole situation came about was through Tall Wickenfield, the bass player. So I sent him an email with a few of my links, our Shaka stuff, Sheila stuff, Sheila E stuff, Lee Ritenour stuff, gospel stuff. I sent him a variety of links because it was kind of like who is this drummer you're talking about? Let me check him out, right? So he gets the information, right? Basically, he sees me play. It was not live in the moment, but he sees me play. I then get an email. Man, I enjoyed that, basically. In so many words, here's a plane ticket, come to Paisley Park. Here's 7 songs to learn, right? Okay. Wow. I'm going to freaking Paisley Park play with Prince. Like, I think I should take this really serious, right? What are we going to do, my people? I'm asking you, what are we going to do? What's the first thing to do? Shouldn't we learn the music, right? I can't play it if I don't know it, right? So let me sit down, A section, okay, and let me process, right? Now, learning may be me actually physically working through stuff, but let me say it like this. The A section is 60% mental, okay, 40% physical, all right? So it's the concept of I'm focusing everything from the mind in the A section. The B section is reversed. It's 60% physical, okay, 40% mental. In the A, I get the information, right? Learn, okay? Learn, practice. Now I have to practice the information. That's more physical. That's more routine-ish, right? Less thought, but more energy towards endurance and muscle memory, correct? Now, C section is A plus B equals C. Okay, learn, practice, play. I learned his music. I practiced it, transcribed it, went through it, broke it down, blah, 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 did everything. What was I left to do? Fly and go play. This happens in the real world in this sequential order every day. Why don't we practice like this? Okay, I'm going to answer another big question because that's the first question I usually get from students is, I don't know. I have so much to work on. Basically, what you're saying is I'm so unorganized I think I need to get organized. And I agree, get organized, okay? That's the first thing. The second question is, well, how long should I practice? You know, many people are going to have their way, okay? The way that works for me came natural. And this is where a little history comes in. When I was in the Drummers Collective in 98, I was 18, 19 years old. And the way the collective was set up then is kind of still set up that way. Each drummer, when you walk into school, you go to the board, the main board, and there's a sheet, and it has all the rooms. It's like 22 rooms here with 2 drum sets each room. They're all listed. The rooms are all listed with the opening time from like 9 a.m. to 12 a.m. each hour, right? And every student gets 3 hours guaranteed of practice time per day, right? So at this time, I'm just going through all kinds of transitions, right? What happened was I started to get behind in my classes because I was unorganized. I had so much work. I just found myself just shedding and shredding in the drum room instead of actually learning and practicing, to the point where Kim Plainfield, God rest his soul, I miss him so much. He's ended up being one of my best friends. He busted in the door one day because, I mean, I was going ham. I think I was mad about something I saw on the train. Some guy did something to this chick, and I was just really upset about it. So I'm like, and I think that's why he came up to, because I was like going ham on these drums, right? But I used to there was like a diamond window in the door, and I cut out the perfect, cover so the students wouldn't be, looking in like this. I'm like, you need to go practice, right? So I had this on the door. So he bust open the door, right? I'll never forget this day because this is when everything changed. And like half the school was standing in the hallway going, what the heck is wrong with you, bro? Like, we all been out here for like an hour just hearing you. I was like, how do you, and the students are asking me questions, even the Japanese students, oh, how do you play so loud for 1 hour straight? I don't understand. It's like all these questions, like, your endurance, are you human? You're not human. And I'm like, oh, domarigatou gozaimasu. So he bust in the door, right? He's like, yo, would you work on your work and just stop, Wow. Well, we may have kids here, so I can't say what he said, but I'll say farting around.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, yeah, okay. He closed the door, and I'm like, he's right. I got final exams coming up, and I'm in here freaking out because I really don't have my ish together. And I'm like, I cannot go home and say I flunked drum school. Can you imagine? Yeah, Chris Coleman flunked drum school. It's like, so moving forward, I had to organize all my classes. First, it started out with 7 piles. Then it got to 5. I was like, well, this is a lot. And I kept saying to myself, I only have 3 hours of practice, right? And I'm like, okay, it went down to 4 piles. But yeah, I still only have 3 hours. I was like, how can I get this in a pile of 3 hours so I can just have some kind of organization? And that's how it started. Here it is. I have 3 hours guaranteed every day. And I would work on something that caused me to think, sight read music, learning how to understand music, all of the stuff of styles and grooves that I had to work on. And then I would work on the music, my performance classes. Bro, I was doing this. I did it like this for like the first week. Man, I could start to see my climb and growth. And I got so motivated. If you know anything about me, when I get motivated, it's a wrap, right? Well, I capitalized off of everybody else's laziness because most students wouldn't show up for their 3 hours, even though they've paid for it through their tuition, right? For the whole year. Oh, man. I'm like, woo, you guys just don't know. So I show up at 9 o'clock every day. I ask the guy, make sure my time is from 9 to 12 every day. And at 12 o'clock, I'm walking around looking for rooms that are open because I'm going to spend another 3 hours. You see what I'm saying? It got to the point where at 19, I am now practicing like I used to practice when I was 9. That was 10, 11 hours a day, nonstop. It felt great, but I was growing. My reading's coming together. I'm controlling these styles. I'm, not afraid of these charts anymore and overcoming my fears and insecurities about playing live and sight reading and playing odd meters in a song that has 25 different time signatures. And what I realized was I was becoming I was growing because I was organized. So I'm going to say this to you. The ABC practice method works as far as time divided by 3. However much time you have to practice every day, divided equally by 3. If you got 30 minutes, if you got an hour, that's 20 minutes each. If you got 90 minutes, that's 30 minutes each. You see what I'm saying? If you got 2 hours, what is that? 40 minutes each, right? That way you leave balanced.
Yeah.
You challenge your mind equally, you challenge your body, and then you apply to everything you practiced in that sequential order that we talked about every day. That's what the ABC practice method is.
That's fantastic, man. And thanks, Chris. And I love you mentioned the cycle that starts to feed itself. I think that's the key of practice.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like you see the results and it makes you want to practice more. And then you want to practice more and you feed it and it feeds it. And it's still going now for you. And you want it to be like a lifelong momentum of building.
Yep.
That. And also what you said, practicing 6 hours a day or 3 to 6 hours a day at that time, that season in your life, versus the season now where you're like, man, I'm just like living my life. And when I play on stage, that's the practice, quote unquote. It's like,
right.
Well, I got a third kid on the way. My wife's a few months pregnant.
Oh, wow. Congratulations, bro.
Yeah, thanks, man. And I do what I call the 3-minute rule. I just like minimum, I got to get there 3 minutes because sometimes I only have a few minutes,
Right.
Get that consistency because compounded over time, that feeds my momentum. And I hear what you're saying, but versus, years and years ago where I had that time. So I hope everybody caught on to that and especially during COVID, like sometimes we have a little more time to practice, but a year from now, that time is going to be wiped out.
Right.
Take
I got
advantage
you.
of that time to build that momentum. Guys, if anybody has any questions for Chris, take advantage of this moment. Rylan has a question about tuning. Do you want to unmute yourself, Rylan, if you're still there?
Yeah. No worries.
If not, I can read it on the chat. Okay, so so Rylan's going into that zone of tuning, and he's one of my students. I've talked to him about this, and I just remember like tweaking, experimenting, getting frustrated, and you try to do this and you think that's the road and it doesn't work, and sometimes wanting to throw the drum because you're like, man, why isn't this working? You're trying different heads, all these things. So Rylan's been learning to tune, and he just says, what's your kind of approach to that, and maybe some things you've learned the hard way to save us all the some of the frustrations that comes with that.
Okay. The number one thing that I learned was there's one aspect of John Good, the guy who works for DW, that I respect. People call him weird. He's like, yeah, the dude listens to wood. Like, yeah, he's just a different dude, And I thought about that. I was like, wow, okay. And then I watched some videos on him, right? And I was like, I completely get where this guy's coming from. He's right. Wood is alive, bro.
Wow.
Wood is a conductor. And just because we've cut it and glued it and, put it back together doesn't mean it's not going to still resonate. I'm saying that to say the problem that I had was I wasn't respecting what the drum was telling me the sweet spot was.
That's awesome.
I was forcing it. I was tightening this too much and that. And you have to understand that you want to have it just as even as possible. Whether it's tight or loose, you want to have it even as possible on both sides so that the drum resonates in balance. Look at it as a car. If one of the wheels are different or it's bigger, then it's going to turn weird. It's going to draw to the right or draw to the left, or you're going to wear out rotors. You're going to wear out brakes and, that type of thing. So you want to have everything balanced. Let's start there. That's the most important thing. Some people may not understand how to do the old school listening to the overtones. And I understand that does take a step of should I say experience to really excuse me, hone that in. But there are other things that you can use. Evans, I'm endorsed with Evans, but they make a great torque key. And, you know, you can set it to a certain pressure, okay, and tweak each. That's a good start, you know, to try to balance out the head. Once we get these heads balanced, I say hit it. Now the tuning can begin. It's going do or do, you know, that type of thing, right? We want to get rid of the do by evening up.
Every drummer knows exactly what you're talking about, by the way.
I'm sure, right? I trust me. Even now, some of my drums, when I'm live on the drums, it's like, and I'm like, I'll deal with you later. Exactly. You're on sonar punishment. You know, so it's like we got to get rid of the and you know, that dip. Sometimes that can be cool, but that can be a marker. You know, one of the heads are tighter than the other, that type of thing. Now, once you get it balanced, we need to find the sweet spot, because in the sweet spot is when you hit this drum, you won't hear so many overtones. It's just going to be a true, natural, even sounding tone. It's not going to feel like it's choked, and it's not going to feel like it's high, you know, like a rubber band. Now, both of those tuning aspects are good. Those are styles. You know, if I tune my drums really high, if you heard it a certain way, you would think jazz, right? Detuning your drums, or should I say lower tension drums, lend to a lot of the older gospel sound, and also a lot of the heavy rock stuff that I hear, you know? So having it loose or super tight is not wrong or right. We just need to find the sweet spot of the drum first. You understand? Because the drum is alive. Let's get to know each individual drum first. Once we do that, then we can direct it, because some 14 inches won't allow you to go down the rock world, you know, and some 14 inches won't allow you to go up to jazz world, and it still sounds like a drum, right?
I hear
so
you.
I think we need to start there. Start with balancing out the heads. Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw a video somewhere on YouTube of the DW guy, and he's writing the note like I think I know what you're talking about. He'll like tap it.
Yeah.
He's got a perfect pitch or something, and he writes, "Oh, that's a B flat," and he writes it on the shell, right?
Right.
So I hear you. And I was in a band once where the band tried to get me to tune the toms to like a chord.
Like a C major or like a F minor sharp. Okay,
Tune this tom to a D, exactly, because like we want it to be in sync with the song. And the result of it was I was trying to force the drums to be what they are not. And I can relate to what you're saying. It's like I ended up throwing that out the window. Just get the drum to sound how it kind of wants to sound. And it takes time, I think, to get there, but it's a good kind of goal. So
I got you.
Yeah, cool. Jono, can you unmute yourself? You're live with Chris.
What's up, Jono?
Hey man, how are you? Can you hear me?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, man.
I had the privilege of watching your performance in Vancouver at the Drumeo Fest.
Thank you, brother.
I'm doing this to you. When you open that show, I'm like, wow. So thank you for that. It was amazing.
Thank you.
My question is, if I'm correct, I think you had some backing tracks for at least part of your performance in that festival.
Mm-hmm.
So my question to you is, are those pieces of music that you develop on your own, or do you draw them from maybe a source, a library of backing tracks or something? How do you come up with the ideas for the backing tracks?
It depends on what producer I'm working with.
Okay.
You know, because certain producers their work methods are different from each other. And like, let's just say Kaz Rodriguez, for example. He did All of Me, and there's 3 songs. Wait, Go, Fight, and I got 3 songs that I actually created with him. What I did was I sent him, in GarageBand, I took the bridge from a Tower of Power song, and then like I took the vamp from a Drake song, And then I took like this one lick from a Shaka song that we did, and I was like, look, I want the groove, the bridge to, I mean, the verse to feel like this, and then I want the chorus to feel kind of like this, and not so much as played that exactly, it's the energy that I'm looking for.
Okay.
And he would always go, wow, that's super. He said, okay, let me live with it for a while, because for him it's like he has to get creative, right?
Sure.
He has to listen to it and take the elements of what I'm asking for, but then still be himself, right? That's the beauty of me giving him those ideas, and then I'll leave him alone for like 2 or 3 weeks, and he'll just hit me up with a rough draft, and I'm like, okay, I love this. This, let's talk about. Let's change this or manipulate this. So that's a lot of how that happened. Then there's some artists that they'll say, well, what are you looking for? And then I'll say, well, I don't have this style of a track. I don't have this type of energy in my repertoire. I like something like this. Maybe I won't send them a track because I want to see what they would come up with, you know, that type of thing.
So then when you have the track, he sent you back the ideas, then you develop your drumming from that, what he sent you. Is that what happens?
Yep.
Yeah.
I go through it and I work out the main parts, you know. I treat it like I would a artist, you know, a show. It's like, yeah, because you think about it, you're in a drum show, you're already going to have solo time, right?
Right.
So do you really want to solo the whole song or make the song interesting so you have some kind of something interesting to offer the the drummers? And it's
right.
I'm big on playing parts and making sure that I try to represent the song well, you know.
Yeah, well, it was really good. So thank you very much. It was good.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
Awesome. And if anybody has any questions, just fire them in the chat and let me know. We'll put you on live with Chris.
I thought I saw one question earlier. Somebody posted, if I'm not mistaken. I thought I saw that run across the screen, the bottom.
Yeah, I see the tuning, which we talked about, but yeah, we'll keep looking at it.
Okay.
I've been lucky, Chris, to see a few of your events, and thanks for doing this. They're just so much fun and positive energy, and what Jonah was saying, fantastic tracks and how you're approaching it. But one thing I saw you do that I wish I could do is, you know, you're playing and you're kind of talking drums and maybe talking tuning, this and that, and then you grab a bass and you stand on stage with the bass and amp, and you're like, who's coming up to play my drums? And everybody, you look around, everybody goes, I didn't know that I was going to be playing, which you probably see it from, you know, your view, like 200 jaws drop kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then people
I love it. It's like, oh man. I love it.
And then slowly the hand goes up and somebody will go up and jam with you. And it's like, you know, you're playing bass with them. So the point of what I'm asking is, like, I was lucky to have some lessons with a great teacher named Jim Blackley. And he does this famous thing. After a few years of lessons with him, he calls you up and he just says, I've booked you time with a piano teacher. He's expecting your call. No more lessons with me. You're going to do this. And that's what's happening. And he basically kind of just forces you into getting off the drums and getting on another instrument. So it's like piano, bass, singing. So if you could just talk about your approach to like playing bass and how it's like, you mentioned playing with Tal and Prince, is it?
Yep.
And like you playing bass with other drummers, that must affect how you relate to other bass players and see the big picture of the musical landscape.
Oh yeah. It's like, for me, my favorite time is session time, because I'm like, okay, who's on bass? Because we are about to create a forever moment. Every time you pop in this CD, every time you press play on iTunes, it's going to be exactly the same thing every time. So let's do our best to make this as epic as possible, you know, that type of thing. So the beauty of being a multi-instrumentalist, because I played sax and trumpet in school as well. And I also I took some piano courses and songwriting and, you know, transcribing and all that types of arranging in that regard. But when I sit on a bass, it's like I understand being the foundation of the band from the melodic standpoint. It's like, I gotta hit these, what we call footballs, you know, the big notes that transition chords into certain areas. But more importantly, what I learned was energy. As a bass player, it's like, man, I can play a groove like doom 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 doom, and the drummer will play, you know. And then if I'm like doom 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 doom, he's gonna dig in. So it's just that simple. It's like, man, we have the ability to dictate how people are gonna feel when they hear this, you know. I'm saying all this to say, when I play either instrument, that's how much I'm listening to every instrument on stage. You know, what is the guitar player doing right now? What is this flute player in conjunction with the trumpet? Why is this counterpart melody doing this? Oh, that's cool how the melody went up and it went down. So maybe I play my fill like that. You know, that type of thing. I'm thinking like this, like I really want to be inside this music, you know, to where when people listen back, they're like, man, like this feels good. Why? Because we're all in synergy, you know?
Synergy. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
That's the key. And I love teaching so much. And sometimes, you know, just throw a question like, what's inspiring you? What are you listening to? And it saddens me sometimes if you get the like, oh, I don't know answer, because it's like, if you're a chef and you're cooking, it's like, there's so much food out there to try and so many spices. And so like what you mentioned with the backing tracks, like Tower of Power, Shaka Khan, Drake, it's like always be listening to as much music as possible.
Oh yeah, man.
And then that's,
yeah, bro.
Did you find in your 3 to 6 hours of, you know, Drummers Collective days of maybe going a little too far down the drummer rabbit hole and having to kind of pull yourself back to the musical space, if you know what I mean?
Actually, those 3 hours helped me gain a balance, because the first 2 hours are all drum world. You know, that's all. This is what I call drum world, and this is what I call musicians world.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and if you know any of my students, they'll tell you, I'll be on the stage and they'll look at me, and sometimes I'll go, you know, like this. And what am I telling them? Like, yo, get out of your head, bro.
Right.
Like, you're in the moment and you are so being a drummer. Right. It's like, I need you to be a musician, because you're not supporting the band, and this music is amazing, but it's like you need to be that energy to kind of, you know, confirm it that it's amazing, that type of thing, you know.
That's awesome.
So for me, the A and the B was all drums, but then to go to C, and it's nothing but performance classes. So here it is, every 3 hours, I'm getting a full balance. That's what it taught me.
Balance.
I equally love to be a drummer and shed and geek out, you know. I'll do it 100%. And I love equally to be a team player. Same level.
Outstanding. Yeah. I'm going to remember this from today. I love that. Just like, okay, get out of your head.
Get out of your head, man. Open. It's like, I'm so serious, because most drummers, they get in this vibe, like, you know, and it's just like, I'm like, I'm in the audience going, are you here? Hello? You know, do you need some Tim Hortons? What's up? Like,
well, that's what you said at the beginning of today's session, the ING. I love that. It's like, you never get there. It's like that mastery, and it's like always stretch further for that synergy. That's great. Riley, you have a great question. Can you unmute yourself? You're live with Chris.
Hi.
How you doing, Riley?
Was just, is there any books that you would recommend, or that like drum books that you've read or like done exercises in, and it just kind of like opened like your creative like musical library, and like things like made you more creative and added more things to like your musical library so you could play different things?
Oh yeah, but by far. Now, here's the thing. And I've had to learn this because technology is evolving so fast, right? When I say I got this from this book, most people nowadays go to the book, okay, and they look for exactly what I just played. It's not going to be this always. What I'm saying is maybe the discipline of the book, maybe the overall tone of what the artist was saying from the book. that's where I got whatever it is I got from that book. I do have a list. Let me ask you this. If I read this list off, let me see if I go to another screen. Can you guys still hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I'm just going to read this list right quick, even though I have a blank screen or a funny face. This is the same list of books that I have for all my students to purchase. The first one is Understanding Rhythm by Michael Lorne. Maybe you want to write this down or record it, or like a voice memo if you don't want to write it down. First book is Understanding Rhythm, Michael Lorne. Second book is Funky Primer by Charles Dowd. Again, Funky Primer by Charles Dowd. Third book, New Breed, Gary Chester. New Breed, Gary Chester. Fourth book, All American 150 Solos, Charlie Wilcoxon. All American 150 Rudimental Solos, Charlie Wilcoxon. Fifth book, Modern Reading Text, Louis Bellson. Modern Reading Text, Louis Bellson. Syncopation, Ted Reed. There's also a second book. I don't have it listed here. There's the Odd Time Reading by Louis Bellson. Actually, the covers of the book look very similar, so you had to pay attention. I use both of those books, the Modern Reading Text and then the Odd Time one, both of those by Louis Bellson, okay? Syncopation, Ted Reed. Advanced Techniques by Jim Chapin. Advanced Techniques by Jim Chapin. One of my favorite books is one of my teacher's books. He still teaches at the Collective. You have to email him personally to get it. I think he's still dealing with a publishing deal or something like this. But nonetheless, the book is amazing. His name is Fred Klatz. It's called On Time. On Time by Fred Klatz. On Time by Fred Klatz. And then there's Advanced Funk Studies by Rick Latham. Advanced Funk Studies by Rick Latham. And then, let's see. It's called Advanced Concepts by Kim Plainfield. That's another one. And that would be the list so far. I have many other books, but they're kind of like one or two things that I use out of those books. But that would be the gist of the library that I created, the ABC practice method. So with my students, I had assigned most of the assignments that fit the ABC practice method through these books. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, that's only about 100 years of practice there.
Right.
Actually more.
Right.
And those are awesome. Like we were talking before about books you can always come back to. Yeah. And it's like the books are the same, but you are, a new you going into it, and you can always kind of draw something out of it. So, okay. That's fantastic. We have a young upstart named Scott Atkins. I don't know who has a great question. Scott, are you able to talk?
Chris, brother.
What's up?
Yeah. Hey, thanks for doing this. It's amazing. And, we're all learning so much. My question was just, I think, pretty much anybody I talk to, and I'm sure everybody on here would agree, when they see you perform, I mean, after you get over the fact that, wow, this is some incredible music that we're witnessing right now, everybody talks about your infectious smile and your positive energy that you throw out. So I was just wondering if you could talk about that for a minute, just about where you draw your inspiration from, where this attitude comes from, and then what that attitude has afforded you in terms of opportunities to play live and on tour with some of the greatest musicians.
Okay. Honestly, Scott, for me, it's life itself, bro. I had a sickness when I was in 7th grade going to 8th grade. So that's maybe 13, anywhere from 12 to 14 years old, around that range, right? And basically, long story short, it's ulcerative colitis. You guys can look it up. There's two diseases like this. There's Crohn's and then there's ulcerative colitis. Crohn's is in the small. You can't live without your small intestine. So you have to deal with Crohn's basically for the rest of your life. I was fortunate enough for it to be ulcerative colitis, which is in the large intestine. long story short, I got sick, really sick. I couldn't really digest food or water for like a whole year, and I almost died. And they ended up taking like 70 to 75% of my large intestine out. So I don't have technically a functioning large intestine. I'm saying that to say that was my moment when being so young and experience a near death situation. So shortly after this, when I was able to finally start eating solid food, I just had this thing about being grateful, man. You know, it's just like, man, I got this huge concert bass drum head with all of my classmates signed it because they all thought I was gonna die, you know? And it's like, I remember the day I showed up at school, they all clapped, the whole school clapped, because they knew like how sick I was, you know, that. And I was known for being a drummer. I wasn't popular though. That's the thing. It was just like, oh, that's the drummer. It wasn't like, yeah, he's the man. It wasn't like that. So I just had this thing, man. Me and God had this thing about me being grateful to him and him promising me that, you know, he would help me accomplish all of my dreams, you know, and walking with him through life. It's been a journey, you know. It has not been easy, but at the end of the day, I always come back around to that moment where I can hear him say, see, I told you it was going to happen this way. I told you, I promised you it was going to make it happen. Thank you for trusting in me, working in patience. Thank you for believing, and thank you for growing and evolving as a better human in the process, you know. Because all of my life's trials and tribulations were things that were shaping me to be a better human, you know? And I think for me, just life itself, man, my son, he's 9. I'm excited about him, leaving him a legacy, you know? How has all of that helped me? Well, being a people person, I just love people. I just love humans. I don't like division, you know, or racism, but I don't see color. I just see humans. We all got the same color blood, you know? And my thing is, it's beautiful when all of us can come together in spite of whatever hell is going on in the earth, and we can have a good time and just encourage each other. For some reason, that's huge for me. That's a huge thing. I love drum festivals. I love to just be cool and have jokes and silly. And I'm just like, God, all of us are drummers in here, and we're just having fun, bro. Like, this is such a blessing, because I've grown up in hoods and, you know, neighborhoods that every other day somebody was getting shot and this was stolen. And, you know, being a small kid in the hood, it was like when you were little and you had to run from the big kids who wanted to beat you up, and it was just like terrifying just to go to 4th grade. And it's just like, drums were a way to speak, and the drums were a way to feel important. Drums were a way to feel that I matter. You understand? And I'm so happy about that. But then I understand the responsibility. So being a team player on stage, artists being able to trust me, that's huge, man. It's huge when you have somebody like a Donnie Wahlberg turn to 60,000 screaming women. This is my guy. Give him a hand. It's like, thanks. You know, for many reasons, you know, that type of thing. But it's like, just being able to be around people like Shaka, who's the same way. She'll talk about food and jokes and all of that. And if you come in talking about a whole bunch of, you won this award, and trying to put her on a pedestal, she's going to be like, oh, child, sit down and have a Coke. Let's just talk. Let's just be human. You know, I'm grateful to have been around people like that, you know, most of the time. So I think it's benefited me in the fact that I have to understand, when I'm working for somebody, I'm work for hire. I have to treat it like a 9 to 5. And at the end of the day, they are paying me to help assist them accomplish their goals and their dreams. You understand? And I feel like because I know me, I have my own music. I'm writing for my own record, writing for my own band. But I remember God saying to me, I need you to be able to be a good steward, you know, over somebody else's gig in music. You know what I'm saying? And understand the ins and outs, the ups and downs. And I got close to managers, so I learned how to manage. I got close to music directors, so I learned how to be a music director. I never had to go to school for this training. I got paid to be trained. Think about it like that. So now I know how to handle it when I have my own, you know? And I love the fact that if I'm not working with an artist, I would probably say 99% of them, I could rework with them. I could go back across that bridge if I need to, because I cared more about the relationship than I did the opportunity.
That's massive. And that's been a theme, Chris, over these live casts with these amazing people we've had over these last few weeks of what we've all been, the challenges we've been going through and finding the opportunity in the crisis is I'm hearing you say attitude of gratitude.
Yep.
And get the band to trust you. I love that. By being a servant leader on the drums and really getting the band to trust you. I love that. That's what makes synergy and great music. And that's amazing. Chris, want to be so respectful of your time. And thank you so much for doing this. Speaking of attitude of gratitude,
no worries.
Amazing. We're going to end with this great question. And this really resonates with, everything that's going on right now. I'm not sure if have you read Victor Wooten's book, Chris, the music lesson?
No, I haven't. I need to get that.
Yeah, it's awesome, and one of my favorite people, Victor Wooten. And
yeah, me too. Same here.
Yeah, and the premise is like music is so much more than just notes. It's tone and it's phrasing and this and that, and one big part of it is emotion.
Right.
And we kind of touch upon it a bit today. What you're feeling, putting that into the drums. And you said you really got a perspective on that, like playing bass and feeling the energy and the emotion. So, Joanne, can you unmute yourself? Do you want to ask, I'm not sure if you can speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Joanne. How are you?
Hi, Chris and Chris.
Hello.
So this is something that Chris Lesso and I were talking about in my lesson yesterday.
Okay.
I'm finding I've been playing the drums for a while now, and I find as an instrument, it's very challenging to communicate emotion the same way a melodic instrument can. Like you had talked about playing the bass, and that was the bridge between the rhythm section and the melodic part of the band. And you're a great player, and you played with some amazing musicians. And how, as a drummer, how do you express emotion along with all those great singers and other musicians?
Wow. That's a really good question. I can take, let's say I have a few drum solos like this where I purposely wanted to communicate a certain emotion, you know, whether it's I'm having fun or what the heck is going on? Like, I mean, there's all kinds of ways I could, you know, go about this. I feel that the drums are equally as melodic as other instruments. That's just me. I simply because, you know, a lot of people ask me, why do I play this certain setup that I play, like 8-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch, 14, 16. Well, a lot of that is for that reason. I have 5 melodies right there. I have a 5-fold chord, should I say, you know? But bigger drums played softer. Let me use this as an example. Set a mood, you know? Think about taiko drums. I don't know if you've ever heard of taiko drums, like from Japan, a lot of the Asian music. Man, when you hear those big drums go off, you're like, whoa, like, what is this emotion? What is this emotion causing me to do? It's causing me to pay attention. Like, it's like, okay, I'm here. You know, that type of thing. When I'm playing, let's say, a snare drum roll or a buzz, being dynamic with it, taking it from you know, mezzo piano to quadruple forte, you know, in the span of 2/16 notes. It's like, that's all emotion. So for drums, I think it's more about dynamics that help us be melodic, or should I say, also help to translate emotions. I hope I'm answering your question correctly. I do feel that the drums are very melodic, but the added aspect is we're also more rhythmic.
Yeah, good point about the dynamics too. That whole world of like Mark Juliana is a great example. He's like we all kind of got the loud, we all got
Right.
the caveman loud thing, but like explore the quiet world, and it brings people on the edges of their seats, like, and it's
Right.
emotion. And yeah, so I love that you brought
Right.
up dynamics. That's
Yep.
a massive part of it. So thank you,
Yep.
Chris. From
But did I answer her question? I just want to make sure she's okay with the answer.
Joanne, do you
Oh
have anything to add to that?
No, that was excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah,
Okay.
I hadn't thought about like the size of the drums and just that vibration, the feeling you get from a really big drum, the vibration really. Yeah, you did. You answered my question. It was great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Outstanding. Chris, thank you so much for doing this. I want to honor you for just your artistry, your mastery. I've seen you many times and, got to hang out and have some laughs. And what Scott said about the positive energy and just what you put into the instrument, what you give and serve, and all you give to students around the world and to bands, and just making the world a better place through you as a person and through your drumming. So thank you. I'm going to unmute everybody. Show your attitude of gratitude to Chris Coleman, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. I
Section,
appreciate
we
it.
always hear this, like a bunch of sticks clicking. That's how drummers.
Yeah. I really appreciate it, guys. I really appreciate it.
Guys, give a thumbs up. I'm going to get a big screenshot of everybody. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris, for doing this and all you're giving. And we'll see you down the road. And yeah. And to everybody.
Yeah, man.
Just
and I just want to say I have, Scott and I have talked about this, man. I love the heart and the spirit of Canada, bro. Like it can, coming from every time I go, I don't care what coast I'm on. Now, it's just me personally. I can only speak for me. It's just like so pure to me. It's just like people there, drummers there just love drums for the simple fact that they just love drums. It just doesn't feel like an industry thing. Does that make sense? So I just want to encourage you all just to continue to just love drums because you love them. And Scott will make sure you guys get kebabs.
That's awesome. And that's a great way to end it, because it's really about the joy that drums bring us, like all the books and the study and the frustration and overcoming challenges. And it's all really kind of orbiting that, right? It's the feeling we get when we hit the drum and when we all come together. So thank you, Chris. We'll see you soon. And
thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, man.
Take care. Bye, everybody.